Hello there, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the community experts about their life journeys and how they came into the community world. And today we have a conversation with Lori Goldman, a
Look at
master
that.
swimmer, SEO, and swimming expert, INFJ or advocate type. CMX Connect Denver chapter host who also co-hosted an event named Voices of Ukraine with our previous guest Blake, a great community builder, and a sunshine person with who I always love to talk. So, hello, Lori.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited and a little nervous.
That's exactly how it has to be, when people are talking, they're a little nervous. So, tell me, there is a first question. I found it from your Instagram. Why do you want to swim with marine iguanas?
Because, okay, well, a big part of my identity is being a swimmer, and I really like reptiles. And the marine iguana is really interesting. First of all, they look like little Godzillas. And I
Yes.
grew up watching Godzilla with my brother. I have a brother 2.5 years younger than me. So that was like kind of one of the things we did together is watch Godzilla. And they are very like they swim in these crazy currents. They just jump in and they swim and like little Godzillas in the water, and they eat algae for about an hour, and then they have to come up. And I just think that they are, and then they come up, and they have developed these special glands that where they sneeze and all the salt water comes up and it makes like this kind of salt pattern on their backs. So I just think that they're hilarious. But the thing that I like about them is, also first that they're on the Galapagos, and second of all, that they have evolved and they have these really specific talents. And so I just kind of I want to do that. I want to get down there with them and see their world. So that's why, and I think they're hilarious. And I have a dear friend who lives in Portland who's equally eccentric and said she'd join me. So
So one day we'll see you with your friends swimming with marine iguanas. And what talents do you like the most about them?
I think I like the fact that that they just go for it. Like I don't think if they have fear, I obviously can't tell. They just the waters where they dive in are very rocky and unknown, and they can be kind of punishing, and they're just like, well, I'm doing it, YOLO. I like that, and I like also that they eat algae. I think that's kind of sweet. It's like they're seaweed and I like seaweed, and I love the fact that they've really adapted and flourished in their circumstances, and it's absolutely adorable to see them on land. They kind of smile when they open their
Yes.
mouths, and
Yes.
then to see like their different colors and their little salt trail on their backs. I just think they're just really hilarious, and also, kind of maybe a personal mascot a little bit. But I do want to swim with them. I want to swim with them. I want to see what they think of this crazy human that swims with them. I won't eat their algae though.
Yeah. And tell me about your love of swimming.
Yeah. I am part of a master's team. I swam a little bit growing up and I wasn't very good at it. And at that point, I really became very, interested in music. But as I've gotten older, I'm a water sign. Maybe that's part of it. I just really love swimming. There is a zen to it. There is a focus to it. And when I'm in the water, I feel like I get to be me, not, Larry's wife, not Jane's mother, not this community person, just my whole self. And I also have a wonderful coach and wonderful team, and it really brings me an incredible amount of joy and sense of accomplishment. And I knew that it was important to me. But as time's gone on, and what really has really like brought it front and center is the fact that I had it taken away from me while I was going through when I was diagnosed in 2021 with breast cancer, and I wasn't allowed to do much of anything. And I'm someone who actually enjoys exercising. I know there are people in the world who think that's insane, but I really do it. It is a cathartic thing for me. It's an energizing thing for me. And because I was diagnosed with a non-genetic form of breast cancer, and I had every complication known to man that wasn't supposed to happen. I couldn't swim, and it became it absolutely tortured me. Because before then I was like first one in, last one out kind of thing. Like, it was an hour and 15 minutes and I gave it my all. And once, I couldn't even watch swim videos like I used to watch swim videos. Like, how do I improve my technique? What can I do that's different? Or, how can I improve my land workouts? So once I actually was able to finally get back in the pool this May, I was like, I'm doing it. And I was very, very pleased that it didn't take me long to get back up to an hour again, because I was doing land workouts, but I did not yet have the stamina that I finally have now to do both land and swim. So it really is this just really incredible time. And for the longest time, I didn't want to compete. I was like, no, no, no. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm competing. I've had a talk with my coach. I'm like, we're going to compete. We're going to compete. So yeah. So it really is wonderful. And I really, my best stroke is fly. And I really like IM. And the stroke that I work on the most is free. It just doesn't come as naturally to me as the other ones do. But in a wonderful twist of fate, that break I had kind of made my freestyle a little better. So I'm really happy about that. So yeah, it's wonderful. It just gives me so much joy, and it really is a part of who I am. And I can do this until my last day on earth. And I like that. So
do you remember this moment when you understood that it's a part of your life that you enjoy so much?
I knew I enjoyed it. But when I was told you cannot swim until this is healed, that is healed, this complication resolves, blah, blah. And I just was so hurt, angry, frustrated, just utterly despondent. And I was like, I have to do whatever I can to get back in the water. And I did. I was like, I did my land workouts. I did special exercise. I went to PT, and, part of me, I had a little thing that I needed to get over myself, which was like, that people did stare at me, because I used to have, breasts, and now I don't. And that was a very conscious choice on my part. And then I just said to myself, get over yourself, get in there. So people are going to look. If they want to ask questions, answer their questions. Let them look. Just you're there to get in there and do it. And so once I got over myself and my anxiety, it's been like, wonderful. And there's no such thing as a bad swim. Like, you have ones that are really good, you have ones that are good and really good. And as long as I'm in the water, I'm super happy. And, I've said to my coach, you please don't treat me with kid gloves. You didn't before. I don't want you to again. I need you to yell at me. And people are like, why do you want your coach to yell at you? I'm like, first of all, my head's in the water most of the time. So I need to be able to hear her. And if she doesn't yell at me, I don't get better. So, yeah. So it's wonderful. And I had a wonderful swim this morning. It was a tough one. But now I look forward to Friday. Yay!
Yay! Congratulations. I will ask you definitely more questions about the hard time you've gone and keep going on. But let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
My parents are children of refugees and grandchildren of refugees. My mom's family is from Odessa, Ukraine, and my dad's family is from the former Czech Republic and Hungary. So on my mom's side, they're garment workers, and on my dad and deli owners on my dad's side, they're like actors, and they also work garment workers. So my parents are both from the northeast of Philadelphia, and they met when they were very young, and they wanted to have a different life than what they grew up with. So they got married when they were very young. My mom was almost 22 when she had me, and my dad had just turned 24, so they were really young by today's standards. And they both, my mom didn't go to college. There wasn't money to do that. And my dad, did not have means either. So, it took him about 6 years to go through college because he worked and put himself through. And they really both worked hard, and they decided they wanted us to have a little bit different life than theirs in Philadelphia, so they moved us to Connecticut. I have one brother that's 2.5 years younger than me that lives in Long Island, New York, and another one that's 7 years younger than me. So I'm the first honeymoon, and my younger brother's the second honeymoon. um, and we grew up there, and we did go back to Philly a lot, and that was really fun because everybody there was so interesting and colorful, and had accents and spoke other languages, and it was just such a warm thing to be around family. But I'm very glad and very grateful for what they did for us, because I had a lot of opportunities growing up where I did. I grew up, learning different instruments. I'm a classically trained singer. I used to play piano, guitar, and violin, and I got to travel as a musician. When I was in high school, I was on an album that won a Downbeat Award, and it really helped me get into the college I went to, which has made me these lifelong, super close friends that are such a big part of my foundation. So that's my family, I think, in a nutshell. And my dad died 7 years ago of complications from strokes, and my mom is still with us. So, and I just actually spent the last 5 days with her. So that was really a nice treat, because, nobody knows how much time they have, and whatever time we have with each other, we cherish. So,
You
yeah.
never know. You never know. And are you still playing those instruments?
I sing every day for myself, but no, I have not been able to. Like, we do have keyboards here, and I look at them and I go, yeah, I really would like to play you, and I'd like to do this and that. I just haven't had the impulse yet. And sometimes I do when my musician friends are touring and they come to town, but I just haven't yet. But I do know that when I would do it, it would be a much different experience than when I did it in the past. So just not there yet. In the meanwhile, I just enjoy listening to a lot of different music, including the great Eminem.
Yeah.
We're big Eminem fans in this house. He's a genius. He is a genius, and he is, talk about someone who's strong, who's resilient, who's bold and courageous. The man is an inspiration, and I just love him. And every time I see him, I just feel I hate the word empowered, but I don't know any other way to say it. I see him and I get happy. Like when he did the Godzilla, when he came out, he's like that video. I remember this clearly because I just was like, yes. He has the beard, and I think the beard is very, very good. I like him in the beard. And he has this hoodie, and he's in like this old school like game parlor, and he's got his hands on his hips, and he goes, fill him with the venom and eliminate him. And blah, blah. I'm like, he is so back. I'm like, he is so back, and our daughter loves him, and I'm like screaming. I'm like, get in here, get in here. So that was a huge thing. So he brings me a lot of joy. He really does. He and there are other musicians like him that really do that for me. And of course I love his music, the Orange and the Storage,
Yes. And have you been to at the concert?
No, I have tinnitus, and I can't, I have some neurological things going on that just have been there for a long time, and it's hard for me to go to a concert. Like the last concert I went to that was really big was Stevie Wonder, and everybody should go to a Stevie Wonder concert because it is a religious experience. So it takes me a while to recover from them. So no, I haven't, but I do think the next time he comes, I will, and I will, just plan to deal with the outcome.
Yeah, I totally feel you. And you talked about speaking different languages in your family. So do you speak any other language except for English?
I can converse in Spanish. I absolutely love that language, and I've kind of gotten off the path of learning it. I was learning it through an app, and I was practicing like 15 minutes every night. And I do have friends who it's their native tongue or they speak it fluently. So any opportunity I have to speak Spanish, I will. And of course, when we all come to Ukraine, I'm not coming without knowing Ukrainian. And I'm assuming, because every time I hear someone speak Ukrainian, or recently I heard someone speak Armenian, it all sounds super familiar to me. And I feel like it wants to come out of me. So I'm kind of like making a promise with myself, like, you're going to need to spend 6 months studying this intently. And that'll be really fun. So yeah, because I see them, I'm like, you look like me. You look like me. You're my people.
If you want to practice, you know who to ask.
Yes, I do, and I will.
I'm always here. Once you reposted this saying, "Are you happy, or are you the oldest sibling and also a girl?" How do you understand it?
It's sarcasm. It's sarcasm. I'm the oldest of three. And the oldest child, from a psychology perspective, tends to be, the lab rat. Like parents, I have one child. My husband is also one of three, but he's the youngest of three. And, so the youngest child tends to be the more risk taking. And the oldest tends to be more, regimented and, just cautious and all these things, and sometimes bossy. So I thought that was really funny. I thought it was just really funny. I think she touched on, the person who posted it touched on a demographic. So I had a good laugh. And I also shared that with my other, friends who are in the same situation. I just think, we're the lab rats. And, some, there's a lot of mentoring that happens when you have younger siblings too. And you're supposed to be the example too. Doesn't always work.
Yes. Have you had this conversation with your husband about being the oldest and the youngest?
We have, and here's an interesting thing. My husband is an identical twin. So there's 3 minutes between his brother and him. So he's kind of not really that, but I will say that, I think he is used to having, my mother-in-law is a very strong person. She's a very strong personality. And, he's certainly used to having that around from, a female perspective. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there is that. I'm a little on the bossy side, and from time to time, not always. And he is more of a risk taker than I have traditionally been. So, but it does work well. It does work out because, it's balance, right? And there are things, within the context of a relationship, like that you really trust that person, and that you can tell them things that you can't tell other people. And, I really respect my husband. That's the other thing. And there are times I just not sure, or I'm not sure how to make a decision about something like related to business. I can sit down and he can kind of be, a sounding board. So we do have that dynamic, but it's a little bit different because of the twin thing.
And you are saying that your husband is an identical twin. And did they ever had some jokes with his brother about you? Like, did they ever tricked you somehow?
They can't because no, because when I see twins, I see differences. I don't see similarities. And similarities seem obvious to me. So they look very different now, but they would do that's not true. Andy did this once. So my husband's brother called once and he's like, "Hi, it's Larry, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Come on, Andy. I know you're, first of all, caller ID. And second of all, I know your voice. Your voice is different." And, sometimes his parents will go through, the photo albums and be like, "Who's Larry? Who's Andy?" I'm like, "That's Larry. That's Andy." So they're like, "Oh, this isn't any fun." So they'll do that with my sister-in-law, and she'll have to figure them out. But my in-laws, to their credit, were very intentional about not dressing them alike and letting them have very separate identities. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Andy did try it once, and I was like, "Oh, please, you can't fool me.
Come on,
you can't fool me." Nice try.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to yourself. Tell
Yeah.
me about your childhood. What is the first memory of your childhood that comes to your mind right now?
My first memory of my childhood is everything's always connected to music for me. So I remember a couple things. I remember sitting in a car and hearing Stevie Wonder sing My Sherry Amore.
Hmm.
And I remember that really clearly. I also remember having my tonsils out, like when I was 3. And I remember hearing the Beatles playing Get Back. So those are my earliest memories. Like much in my brain is connected to music. I think it's because I learned music at a young age and I learned Suzuki, and that I think does change your brain structure a little bit in a good way. So those are things that I remember, and I remember things from growing up, like where I grew up, it was cold, and I remember us, just kind of bundling up and sledding down, the middle of the road, and getting into all sorts of trouble. And it was a very carefree time back then. And we used to do things like when our homework was done, we used to get on our bikes and go to different people's houses in the neighborhood. And so those are things I remember, and I remember like different people that I'm still friends with, and going to their houses. And like my best friend growing up, her mother, was a home ec teacher, and she did everything. She was like, she sewed, she cooked, she baked. So we were always making things at her house. We were always creating things. And it was always so much fun. And, the chaos, I do, I do like the chaos.
What do you mean by saying that?
Oh, when you have, like, my best friend from growing up is one of 3. I'm one of 3. And I had other friends who were like one of 5. And just the chaos of having, the parents and the siblings and everybody together. And, there were, the family dynamics, just like the craziness of it. We have friends who, all our kids are grown now, but, they have 4. And I just used to love it because, I have one, and granted, my one is a force of nature. There just wasn't the level of chaos that you get with 4. So it was always fun for me to go see them and just be part of the chaos again.
You see, such big families, like you have 2 siblings, your husband has 2 siblings. So is that a good question to ask? Why do you have one kid?
Sure. Infertility. I could not, I lost 2 and I had one, I had mine. And honestly, she didn't want to come out. She was, I mean, birth dates are never accurate, but even when I was in labor,
Never.
they're like, she doesn't want to come out. I'm like, well, it's a little cramped in there, but the food's good. It's comfortable, it's warm. So yeah, I would have, if I could have had more, I would have. My body just couldn't do it. So I feel, fortunate to have one. And, you adjust to that. But I do love other people's children. And our daughter has some friends that she's very close with. And, one in particular who I feel is like, you know, you would have been my child if I would have been able to have you. I just love him. So yeah, I get that way. But yeah, I would have had more for sure. But ours, we're able to at least give her everything that we can. You know what I mean? I don't think that it was a bad thing that, my parents had 3 kids, and this is, we can give you X much and that's what you get. And, with our daughter, we can give her everything. So that's a good trade-off. And if I need, more kids to hang out with, I do have our friends' kids. So,
why am I asking? Because when you have 3 children in the family, it's easier to, for sure, you might receive less, but you have less responsibilities in the future. So there is less demand in the future, because I'm the one kid in the family, and now I'm grown up and I receive all the demands from my mother, and I understand how it works. So what about you? How do you, like, you gave to your daughter and keep giving all the things you want, but are you still demanding a lot?
no. I mean, I talk to my mother twice a week. She's about an hour and 15 minutes away by plane. We recently, moved her from her house, which became too much for her because she had a series of accidents and, her body's repaired. It's just too much for her to take care of a house. So we recently helped her move into like more of, I tell her it's like she's in college. I tell her, like, think of it as a dorm and think of it, just fun without grades. So we all help. We all like kind of split different things. I have one brother who lives closer. So for immediate things, I talk to her and I help her with whatever I can. And I think we kind of share it amongst us. But I have been told by our daughter that don't get too comfortable if I'm ever able to retire because I'm going to be raising her children. I'm like, is that so? I'm like, let's just see. It's all right. I mean, I like that kind of responsibility, so I'm okay. I'm really okay. Family's a really good thing.
When you, while in graduate school, you worked as a stringer, like, as I understand, as freelance journalist for Boston area newspapers. So tell me, please, what was your favorite report?
I did a lot of different things. I went to grad school to become a better writer, and I think I did accomplish that as a personal goal. One thing, I really liked doing features. So I used to, for one newspaper, I used to write features. So I met a principal of an elementary school who was so delightful and so eloquent and so calm in the way that teachers are very, they're very calm, and especially for the younger kids, there's this beatific way about them. So I really liked that. I really liked getting to know them and telling their story. I really, really liked that. And then not long afterwards, I completely fell in love with the Mac. I got my hands on a Mac and I just was like, oh my goodness. And that kind of started me on the journey to technical writing and desktop publishing. So I really do enjoy that telling of stories, which we get to do as community managers. We get to tell people stories. So I feel like that was kind of a very natural transition.
Why did you wanted to start writing? You were connected with music a lot, but why writing?
I think when someone is creative, I think I look at creativity as like a big ocean. And if you look at musicians, like if you look at like John Mellencamp, if you look at Joni Mitchell, if you look at and John Lydon as well, they are multi-talented. And I believe that when you're a creative person, whether or not you emphasize it, you've got this big ocean of creativity. And for some people, it's dance, right? Mm-hmm. But they could also quite easily, if they wanted to, because they have the creativity and because they know how to flow with it, do other things. Like Joni Mitchell talks a lot about, the difference between being a performing artist and a visual artist. And all of her albums have her paintings on them. She loves to dance. She makes sculpture. She makes music like nobody else. John Lydon, same thing. He's if folks don't know who John Lydon is, you probably know his notorious first band, the Sex Pistols, but the band that really matters is Public Image, aka Pill. And he's been making art. He's been making beautiful art, and he's been doing NFTs. And John Mellencamp has been a sculptor for years. So I think it's just one big yummy, ocean of creativity, and it's just which path are you going to take? Which wave are you going to ride? So, for a little while, I did write music criticism. I think I'm glad I didn't pursue that because it's very hard and it's hard to not be opinionated. I think you have to be as neutral as possible. So I just, it's just an outlet, like now I'm not choosing to focus on music or writing, but I sew. So that is my creative outlet right now. And would I come back to the other things? Likely. It's just, just this one path right now. But I think everybody who's creative should know that whether you use the ocean metaphor or another metaphor, there's always another wave that you can ride. And don't be afraid to ride that wave because you're already predisposed to it. So
Do you paint?
No, I actually I do sketch a little bit. I've been sewing for 2 years, and for me, not only is it fun and intriguing, but I also feel like I'm kind of honoring my ancestors too, because they did that. They were garment workers, they worked in sweater factories, and I have always loved textiles. And now I'm just like, I'm going to make things that make me happy. And so I conceive in my head, and then I sketch, and then I figure out with my teacher, how do I implement this? I think it's this, this, and this. So I don't paint, no, but I do, I do have art that I like. I do have my entire office slash sewing room is full of art. Our house is full of art. Maybe sometime I would want to take lessons, though. I would want to take lessons and be disciplined and structured about it.
Another wave. You never know.
Another wave, yes. Yes.
Sometimes you start posts on LinkedIn with shameless colleague promo. Did you ever make a shameful promo?
No, I would not. It's kind of a warning, like, I love my friends, I love my colleagues, and it brings me great joy to help them and to promote them, because I feel so much pride in what they do. So that's why I just give people a warning, like, you're going to be getting maybe I should rephrase it when I do it. You're going to get like this big love shout out, like, when recently, like my colleague Vanya Logan, who's like my sister from another mister,
Yes.
just did this fantastic talk at CMX Thrive about DEI. And I think she, Abiola, Nikia, and Crystal all, really did a beautiful thing. And Blake is always doing something interesting, Blake Etheridge. So I like doing that, because I feel like LinkedIn is a platform where you can do that. I think, just spread the good vibes. So I think it's kind of a silly thing to say shameless, colleague promo, but maybe I'll rephrase it. But I just, it tickles me to do things like that. It makes me very happy. And, why not? I mean, why not share joy?
Yes, I totally agree. That's exactly what drew my attention. Like, it's super cool. And another post on Instagram, and just like that, I have an 18-year-old daughter and a silly husband. Tell me about your silly husband. How did you meet Larry?
Oh, that's a great story. He's very silly. He and Jane have a very silly, lovely relationship. Actually, we both we've cut back, but we both volunteered a lot. That was a big value in both of our families, and advocacy in mine as well. And we were both part of this event that happens every summer over July 4th weekend, called the Cherry Creek Arts Festival. So I ran, you lead committees, and you have volunteers, and it's a 3-day festival, and it's hotter than 80s. And so he ran security, and I run the information booth and guest relations. And we also both happened to live on the same street, but we didn't know it. So there was proxemics happening too. And a mutual friend of ours said, oh, you should meet the other chair. She lives near you. So one day I was out gardening, I remember I'd been like, I hadn't like taken a shower or anything. I was like really disgusting. And I just was out working in my garden, and I just was like, oh my God, I'm so gross today. Wouldn't it be crazy? Probably like the person I'm supposed to marry will probably come in, and like, not an hour later, like this, there's this knock on my gate, and this like adorable yellow lab comes through, and this really cute guy comes through, and I'm like, okay. And, we went on a date, and it went well. And, we dated for 2 years, and then we were engaged for 1. We got married, and here we are. So he's very silly. He, I think we're both serious in different ways, and I tend to, be more serious, and he will try to silly me out of it. He'll just make jokes, or he'll be like, say to me, look, what if you're the plucky comic relief? And if you don't know that line, it's from Galaxy Quest. So he's just very silly. He makes faces, and he makes jokes all the time. And it's good. he keeps it light, whereas, I can sometimes be very serious about things. So he's silly, and he's very silly with our daughter too. And they really have a nice relationship because she is constantly traveling with field hockey and he goes with her. And I'm more of the homebody. I get to hang out at home. I get to see, do what I want to do. I get to read. I get to be with my animals. I get to see my friends. I get to do whatever. And they get to go. And I hold down the fort here. So he's much better at that than I am. So, yeah. But you'll always find him mugging or making a silly face in a photograph.
And I believe that he supported you a lot during this stuff, this cancer stuff you had.
Well,
so tell me a little about this hard, I believe hard journey. How did it go, and how did it impact your life?
He doesn't like to talk about it, but I was in mid-January 2021. Like our doctor had said, we had both had our physicals within a day of each other, and our doctor had said, to me, you need to go get a mammogram. And so I was like, all right, because I missed it, because you get busy with work and blah blah, and you don't think about it. Yeah. And I went in, and they caught, and I was like, yeah, whatever, this, just grin and bear it. And then they called me like a day or two later. They're like, let's do a 3D. And I'm like, I didn't think much of it because I was occupied with work and, the Sturm und Drang of daily life. And so they're like, hang on, we just want to check one thing. So I'm hanging on, and I'm like, whatever, and checking to make sure I'm not missing anything at work. And I had a doctor pull me in an office, and she's like, I need to tell you that you have a non-genetic form of breast cancer. And I absolutely lost my mind. I just was like, I threw up. I was screaming and curled up in a ball because I am someone you don't think, like Lance Armstrong, nobody would have thought he got it right. I was in like competition shape. I eat very healthy. I don't eat, I eat a plant-based diet. I'm a healthy person. I don't drink alcohol. I'm very, I get a lot of sleep. I'm pretty healthy. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. So, I called my brother, who about nine years earlier had colon cancer. And I was like, how do I do this? And he was super helpful. He, it took him a year to get over his, and neither of us have any genetic markers whatsoever for this. Everything just exploded. It just exploded, and this thing takes over your life. So that's what it did. It took over our lives. And I really thought, I just didn't expect it. And so now you go from being this independent, grown-ass woman to being a patient whose life is in someone else's hands. And we oldest children are kind of control freaks. So I found a very good medical oncologist. Well, what had happened was I have some very good doctors, and I called them and I was like, I need to tell you this. And, they start crying. And the thing that I learned is, you manage your own emotions, but you have to manage other people's emotions too, because when you tell them, they shatter too. I call it like being thrown out of an airplane without a parachute and just free falling. And everybody goes through it. Like, it happened to my colleagues. It happened to my family. It happened to my friends. Like, everybody was thrown out of the plane. So my surgery, we kind of moved it up because my husband was shortly thereafter diagnosed with cancer too. And his, thank God, was very manageable. He had an experimental treatment that worked for him, so he was fine. But for me, everything went wrong. And I had a plastic surgeon that was, nonchalant about things. And I had a blood clot, and I ended up getting septic and having a number of infections and needing to have a port in for a month, and have other complications that we don't need to go into. So it took a long time for my body to heal. My body is still healing, but I'm in a place now where I can, I've got stamina back, and I and myself, but it's taken me a long time to put myself back together. And it's also changed me. Like, everybody here knows me after cancer, and I'm much less complacent now. I used to be like very, quiet in meetings. And now I'm like, if I think I have something value to say, rather than before where I would, take someone aside and say, well, have you considered this? Now I'm just like, if I feel like it's going to be of value, I speak up.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, so the thing that was really a godsend was, there's something called oncology rehab, where you go to oncological physical therapists. And I met this amazing woman, and her name is Brianna Obert. And this woman saved my life. She understood what I was going through emotionally. She helped me. She taught me exercises, and she saw things that the doctors missed. So I love that woman, and I'm forever in debt. And I go to yoga with her every Friday. And if you would have told me before cancer that I would go to yoga once a week, I would have said you were nuts. But yeah, I'm horrible at it. But you know what? I do it, and I'm with other folks who have gone through what I've gone through. And the other thing that was wonderful about oncology rehab was I was with other people with cancer. So I didn't really have to explain myself. And there was often, like, I know one time this woman was there and she wasn't feeling well and she was vomiting from chemo, and she kept coming out of the bathroom. And so I was like, let me help you. And I kind of set her down, and I got her, some cold cloths and some ice just to help cool her down, because there's so much heat coming out of you. And it was immensely gratifying for me to be able to do that. So one thing that I feel very motivated to do is to start a podcast. I had actually talked to Pablo Gonzalez and Jerry McNamara about this. And I think that it's really important that people understand, like, the impact of cancer, and get it out there. Patton Oswalt said eons ago that he thinks grief is a boogeyman, and that if you make it come out into the light, it becomes less of a boogeyman. And I truly believe that. So I'm gearing up to start like a live show / podcast. I've got about 50 people I want to talk to. I'm talking to people who either have cancer or are friends of people who've had cancer, our children, our spouses, whatever. How did it impact you? So A, they can air their grief. B, they can demystify this, because I had no concept of what it was like. And I think it can help. And maybe can we move the needle a tiny bit about grief in our culture? Can we move the needle a tiny bit about understanding illness, and maybe even move the needle a little bit about compassion and empathy? So that is my plan. That's my plan. And, it's any kind of cancer. I'm hoping that it'll be a cathartic, maybe healing thing for people, to give them that opportunity. So, yeah.
When you will start it, please share a link. I will be the first person to listen, because it's live. It's live.
I will. Yeah.
And how did you manage it emotionally?
I had temper tantrums. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to regress to 3-year-old, now's the time. I cried a lot. I felt bad. I called everybody who I knew I could trust and it would feel safe with. And I did that. And my doctors, regardless of whether they were involved in that aspect of my care, called me too and checked on me quite a bit. And, I just talked about it. And, I had a therapist. It wasn't the best match, but it was something. And then I recently, in the last 6 weeks, have found someone who's a much better person for me to do that. And I listened to podcasts too, and I just felt my feelings. Sometimes they weren't pretty, but you can't keep them in. Yep. You can't keep him in. So yeah, I do recall having a temper tantrum and throwing things in the yard, and my husband being like, the neighbors are hearing you. And I'm like, I don't care. He's like, get in the house. I'm like, no. Yeah. Now I can laugh at it. And I exercised when I could too. Like, if I would go for like these long walks and just like, what is happening to my life? It's been taken over by these things. And you know, it's an emotional thing. It's always going to be an emotional thing. But I hope that it's made me, a more caring person and a more empathic person, and you know, certainly one who is less fearful. You know, I mean, I still have anxiety. I think everybody does, and I think thanks COVID. Um, but I think maybe I'm less fearful and a little bit more like, well, I looked death in the face. I won. So
Yeah.
maybe I can step outside my comfort zone and try this. And it won't be the end of the world if it doesn't happen. So I just have to make sure I don't have lymph nodes in my right arm. I just have to make sure that nobody takes my blood pressure or gives me a shot in this arm. Otherwise, it's not going to be good.
Yeah. And how do you feel about getting out of comfort zone right now and before? So what is the difference?
Um, Before it was, a very there was a lot of thought put into it, and there was a lot of examining of the different outcomes, and because it was a risky thing. And now it's like, what could happen? You gonna get cancer again?
Yes.
What could happen? What keeps you from going to do that? And most of the time it's like, just try it, make a mistake, screw up. I have really come to embrace what we call failure, and I don't call it failure, I call it learning from your mistakes. I have really I tell myself, go fall flat on your face, try this. If you're uncomfortable, then it means you need to try it, so just try it. So I make myself try things that normally before I wouldn't. Like, sometimes I get lost in places. Like, I'll go to places I don't know where I am, and I won't use Google, or I won't use anything, and I'll just be like, okay, just be aware of your surroundings. That's something I wouldn't have done before. And I wouldn't, speak up as much. And I certainly wouldn't have done a podcast, because I just wouldn't. And I maybe made my world a little bit bigger. I think before maybe I might have been making my world a little bit smaller. And now I think I'm making it maybe a little bit bigger. So, yeah.
I really have so many questions.
Sure.
It's just only the beginning of the conversation, but I wish to have the sky as the limit to the conversation, but time is the limit.
Yes.
Unfortunately, but fortunately, we will have volume 2 sometime.
Yes.
So
We
just
should
get ready.
revisit every
For
year.
sure. Definitely. So,
Can I
when
do the interview with you next time?
I would love to, for sure. And when you just start a conversation, you cannot see how fast the hour passing. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions.
Go for it.
So, dog or cat?
Cat.
Sure.
Both, but cat. Yeah.
Moon or sun?
Moon.
What are your favorite color and song?
My favorite color is green, and olive green in particular. I love olive green, and I have a lot of favorite songs, but I really like. I'm a big Freddie Mercury fan, and right now my favorite song is "Don't Stop Me Now." With "Lose Yourself" in a close second.
I can only imagine this connection. Don't Stop Me Now with Lose Yourself. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You are already a superhero, but if we were talking about a movie superhero, what superpower would you have?
Flight, because I already know, like, when I became a mom, you kind of become a little bit invisible. I don't know if your wife could validate that or not. I found myself coming a little bit invisible. But I love birds. I'm a backyard birder, and I would love the ability to fly. That would be amazing to see what that's like to have wings, and I love watching birds kind of sail through, and just how they float. That would be amazing.
Just a little follow-up question. Have you ever imagined yourself flying, like closing your eyes and like You're under the roof, then you're going down, then you're going up to the roof. Have you ever?
No, I mostly imagine myself on the ocean. I mostly imagine myself like surfing, feeling waves, feeling that being buoyed by the ocean and the taste of the ocean. Because I like I have a savory tooth as opposed to a sweet tooth. So no, I don't really think about it. I do like observing that, and I like bats too. Like I think bats are amazing. But no, I haven't. Maybe I should try that, because when I imagine myself, it's always water related. It's in the
Yeah.
ocean, and it's the bobbing up and down, and like that flow of the ocean, and like when I don't know if you've ever like bodyboarded or surfed, but you really feel like the hand of the ocean just kind of gently pushing you. So that's my imagination. But now I have to try flight. Now I clearly have to try flight in my.
I don't know how you make it, but when you are talking about it, I'm just closing my eyes and imagining, and I'm feeling everything you are talking about.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a beautiful thing. And hopefully we'll get to swim in the Black Sea.
Yay! Dessa
Yeah.
for sure. Crimea.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Who do you learn from in the community world? The hardest part, name one person.
I can't name just one.
You have to name just one. Like, it's not about competition. We will never tell anyone about it, but one person.
Um, it's Venya.
Okay.
It's Venya. I mean, it's so close between you, Venya, Pablo, and Blake. You know what I mean? It's like this one thing. But I think it's Venya because like her, I have a background in anthropology, and I was more in like the folklore vein, but I understand where she comes from, and she is so, there's a real method to what she does. So I would have to say it's Venya Logan, Samantha Venya Logan. Yeah, and I just admire her so much, and I learned so much from her. So yeah, but I mean, I learned so much from you. I learned so much from Blake, Pablo, John O'Bacon, Richard Millington, Rosie Sherry. My God. And then everybody at CMX, I mean, I
Yes,
feel like I'm
yes.
surrounded in that circle. You and I were talking about, that we as community builders are kind of in this big circle, and there's always these people around us who want to help us and who are there for us. So yeah. Yeah.
Name two, it's easier question. Name two people who I should definitely talk to about their community lives.
Well, you've talked to Pablo, right? You've talked to
Already?
Venya. Have you talked to Venya yet?
Not yet, so she's the first.
She's the first one. And let's see. Have you talked to Pixie?
Not yet.
Pixie Cigar.
Cool.
I love her. I just love her. And first of all, she's wonderful. She is like this radiant being of light. And she is just absolutely delightful. And she's multilingual, and she's really interesting. So yeah, isn't it neat that we get to work with all of these interesting people? And we all have this activist streak and this advocacy streak, and we're all like little mama bears, as Venya says. So yeah, I highly recommend those two people. I could make you a long list if you want, but
I know. I like you are the speaker duer for Pablo Gonzalez. I know about it. Like he tells it and on every show like, "Hey Lori, thank you very much, Lori." So yeah, I totally know it, and I will definitely. So I already that's why I asked you only two, because I know that you have much more. And yeah, Lori, thank you very much for this conversation, for being so,
thank you for your
I don't
time
know,
and for choosing me.
honestly open, and like you were speaking about such hard stuff so easily. So like I'm proud of you.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you. And
thank you very much for being in this conversation, and that we met. And I remember like as it was yesterday, how we met and all
Thank
our
you.
conversations. Thank you very much for your support, and you are such an
I,
amazing person. And I just love that I know you. So
I
I'm
feel the
happy.
same way. I
And
think everybody feels the
you
same way
know,
about it.
one day, I promise you, one day we'll get you, Pablo, Venya, Blake, and other amazing Jenny Way go for sure. And we'll go and we will sing karaoke. And I
Have
will be
fun.
there. We'll
We'll
have,
have fun and we will rebuild
and
because
it
we're
will
all
be
going
in
to do it.
Ukraine. Sure.
We will
So,
rebuild. We will rebuild. We will rebuild. That is what we're all going to do. And then we'll have lots of food and lots of yummy times and get together and sing karaoke. And there is on Venya posted, she did a review of CMX Thrive, and there's like these clips of Pablo singing karaoke, and it is priceless. I highly recommend, obviously watch it for her commentary. And then just, because Pablo is so, you know,
yes.
could you have made a better person? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I
So,
totally understand you. He
yeah,
was he was the first person who cried in our conversation. It was so amazing. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he is, everybody in community, I just,
Yes.
all these amazing people. So yeah,
Lori.
so I look forward to and I count the days, to when we all can get together and rebuild and have fun and move in a more, empathic and loving and compassionate space. So fingers and toes crossed. Let's,
Thank you
so
very
do we
much.
get are we gonna take a
See you.
Zoom? Are we gonna take
See
a
you.
Zoom fee?
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
It's
Everybody
it's
loves the Zoom fee.
yeah, that's you have to go to between two other course meeting to have a Zoom.
I will be there. I will be there. Is that 2 days? Friday.
Yeah,
Friday. I'm
Friday.
going to be there Friday.
See you on Friday. Thank you very much, Lauren. See you on
Thank you.
Friday.
I'll see you on Friday. Bye.